They fired me on a Tuesday and handed my job to a 22-year-old intern. By Friday, he'd accidentally triggered the wipe protocol I wrote into the codebase 2 years ago. $82 million vanished in 43 seconds. And I was just getting started. My name is Olivia Hart, and for 9 years, I built Riseware systems from the inside out. Every line of security code, every encryption protocol, every fail-safe that kept our clients' data protected, I wrote them. At 34, I wasn't just the lead software engineer. I was the foundation upon which $82 million of digital infrastructure stood. The termination meeting was scheduled for 2:30 p.m. on a Tuesday that smelled like rain and betrayal. Landon Sayer, our new COO hired just 3 months ago with his Stanford MBA, and zero understanding of actual code, sat across from me with a smile that could cut glass. "Olivia, we appreciate everything you've done for Riseware," he began, his fingers drumming against a folder I knew contained my death sentence. "But we're moving in a fresh direction. We need someone who can bring a more youthful approach to our system's architecture." Youthful, the word tasted like ash in my mouth. I'd pulled 70-hour weeks debugging critical vulnerabilities while Landon was probably still doing keg stands at his frat house. "You're firing me," not a question, a statement. "We're offering a generous severance package." "Who's replacing me?" His smile widened. "Theo Danner, brilliant young mind, top of his class at Berkeley." Theo Danner, I knew him. The intern who'd spent last summer asking me how to write a basic loop function. The same kid who'd accidentally crashed our test server twice because he couldn't tell the difference between production and development environments. I stood up slowly, my hands steady despite the rage building in my chest. 9 years. 9 years of building something from nothing, of creating security protocols so sophisticated that Fortune 500 companies paid millions just to license them. And they were handing it all to a 22-year-old who probably still had his GitHub profile set to aspiring coder. "I'll need time to transition my work," I said, voice calm as a frozen lake. "Actually, Theo's been studying your code for weeks. He assures us he's ready to take over immediately." Landon pushed the severance papers across the table. "Security will escort you out once you've cleared your desk." I signed where they wanted me to sign, smiled when they expected me to smile. But as I packed my personal items into a cardboard box, a coffee mug from the first product launch, a photo from when we hit our first million in revenue, my hand brushed against something in my laptop bag, the external drive, my personal backup of the entire system architecture, including the undocumented features I'd built in during late-night coding sessions when I was the only one who cared if Riseware survived another day. Security walked me to the elevator like I was a criminal, through the glass walls of the conference room. I could see Theo already settling into my chair, his feet up on my desk, laughing at something on his phone. He had no idea what he'd just inherited. The visible code was just the surface. Beneath it lay 2 years of intricate safeguards, including Protocol Omega, a defense mechanism I'd embedded after a competitor tried to poach our source code. It was designed to protect against unauthorized access and deletion of critical files. Touch the wrong sequence of commands without the proper authentication, and the system would assume it was under attack. I stepped into the elevator, clutching my cardboard box. Theo Danner thought he was ready to fill my shoes, but he didn't know that some shoes came with landmines. The rain had started by the time I reached my car. I sat there for a moment, watching Riseware's gleaming tower disappear behind sheets of water. Then I carefully placed the external drive in my glove compartment and drove home. They wanted a youthful approach. They were about to learn why experience mattered. The first signs of disaster came on Wednesday morning. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, a former colleague who still worked in IT. "You seeing this system's acting weird?" I wasn't supposed to care anymore, but old habits die hard. I opened my laptop and checked the developer forums where Riseware engineers discussed issues. The posts were flooding in. Authentication module throwing errors. Anyone else? Lost 3 client files from the secure repository. Response time degraded by 400% since yesterday. Then I saw it, a post from Theo himself, timestamped at 11:43 p.m., the previous night. Cleaning up legacy code. This architecture is way too complicated. Simplifying for better performance. My coffee mug froze halfway to my lips. Simplifying. The word every rookie developer used before they destroyed something they didn't understand. By Thursday, the situation had escalated. Marcus sent another text. Theo's been deleting entire modules. Says they're redundant. Landon's backing him up. I pulled up my personal monitoring dashboard. Yes, I still had read-only access to system metrics through a third-party integration they'd forgotten to revoke. What I saw made my blood run cold. Critical security functions were disappearing. The encryption layers I'd spent months perfecting. Gone. The redundancy protocols that prevented data loss. Deleted. The careful balance I'd maintained for 9 years was crumbling. But Theo hadn't found Protocol Omega yet. It was buried deep, disguised as routine error-handling code. Even I had almost forgotten about it until now. Friday morning arrived like a countdown reaching zero. At 9:17 a.m., my monitoring dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree, heart rate spiking. I watched the cascade begin. Theo had just deleted what he probably thought was an obsolete validation module. But that module was the keystone. Without it, Protocol Omega interpreted the system state as a critical breach. The defense mechanism activated. First, it locked down all access points. Then, following its programming to protect against data theft, it began systematically encrypting and archiving every file, every database, every line of code into quantum encrypted containers that required a specific 2048-bit private key to unlock. A key that existed in only one place, my personal security wallet. The process was beautiful in its thoroughness. 9 years of data, millions of transactions, client records, proprietary algorithms, all of it vanishing behind an impenetrable wall of encryption. The system wasn't deleting anything. It was protecting everything. But without the key, it might as well have been destroyed. At 9:21 a.m., it was over. $82 million in digital assets had become inaccessible. My phone exploded with notifications, former colleagues texting in panic, LinkedIn messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone in tech knew something massive had just happened at Riseware. I opened my laptop and navigated to Riseware's public status page. The words, "Critical system failure," blazed across the screen in red. Their entire platform was down. Then came the call I'd been expecting. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Riseware's headquarters. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Olivia. The voice was tight with barely controlled panic. Not Landon, someone from IT. Yes. We need you to come in immediately. There's been an incident. I don't work for Riseware anymore, remember? Please, the entire system is locked. Everything's encrypted. We can't access anything. I paused, letting the silence stretch. Have you tried asking Theo? I heard he's brilliant, top of his class at Berkeley? The voice cracked. He's the one who triggered it. He deleted something and now... I'm sure you'll figure it out. I ended the call. My laptop showed 17 missed calls in the next hour. I ignored them all. Instead, I made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the rain that had continued since Tuesday. Somewhere across the city, in a gleaming tower that housed Riseware systems, a 22-year-old intern was learning that some code wasn't meant to be simplified, that some complexity existed for a reason. That experience wasn't just about age, it was about understanding that every line of code tells a story, and deleting chapters you haven't read can make the whole book disappear. Protocol Omega had done exactly what I'd designed it to do, protect Riseware's assets from unauthorized tampering. The fact that the tampering came from within, well, that was a lesson in the importance of knowing what you're destroying before you hit delete. My phone rang again. This time, I turned it off entirely. They wanted a fresh approach. They got exactly what they asked for. The emergency board meeting convened at 11 a.m. sharp. I knew because Samantha, an executive assistant who'd always been kind to me, texted me updates from outside the conference room. Her messages painted a picture of corporate chaos. CEO just arrived, face like thunder. Major investors on video call. Japanese partners threatening to pull out. Landon sweating through his shirt. Inside that glass-walled conference room on the 40th floor, Riseware's leadership was experiencing their own version of Protocol Omega complete system failure, but in human form. According to Samantha, CEO David Hartley opened with a single question: how do we lose $82 million in digital assets in 43 seconds? Landon's voice, she reported, cracked like a teenager's as he attempted to explain. It appears to be a malfunction in the legacy code. The previous lead engineer. You mean Olivia Hart? The woman you fired 3 days ago? Hartley's interruption was sharp enough to cut glass. She left behind unnecessarily complex systems. Theo was simply streamlining. Streamlining. This from Kenji Nakamura, Riseware's biggest investor, his voice crackling through the conference speaker. Your intern destroyed our entire data infrastructure. The head of IT, Brian Morrison, finally spoke the truth they'd all been dancing around. Mr. Hartley, the system isn't destroyed. It's encrypted. Everything is locked behind military-grade protection that triggered when unauthorized deletions were detected. Then decrypt it. We can't. The encryption key is... Brian paused. Samantha said the room went so quiet, you could hear the air conditioning hum. The key appears to be held externally, by the person who wrote the protection protocol, Olivia Hart. Yes, sir. Samantha's next text made me smile. You should see their faces, like they just realized they fired the person holding the keys to the kingdom. The meeting deteriorated from there. Nakamura demanded to know why a single employee had such power. The other investors questioned Landon's judgment. The technical team tried to explain that the protocol was actually protecting their data from what it perceived as an attack. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Legal had been hastily reviewing my employment contract and separation agreement. Sarah Winters, head counsel, delivered her findings with the kind of careful precision lawyers use when they know they're about to detonate a bomb. There's a clause in Ms. Hart's original contract, Article 7, Section 3. Any intellectual property created during employment but not formally transferred remains the creator's property if termination occurs without cause related to performance. What does that mean? Landon's voice was barely a whisper. It means the encryption protocol and the key to unlock it legally belongs to Olivia Hart. We terminated her for strategic restructuring, not performance issues. The module was never formally transferred to company ownership because it was embedded in routine updates. Technically, we're now using her private property without permission. The silence that followed was beautiful. Even through Samantha's second-hand reporting, I could feel the weight of their realization crushing down on them. Get her back, Hartley ordered. Whatever it takes. Sir, Brian interjected, we've been calling. She's not answering. Then go to her house. Send legal. Send the entire board if you have to. But the bad news wasn't done. The head of client relations joined the call with another bombshell. 3 major clients had already invoked their service-level agreement penalties. If Riseware couldn't restore access within 72 hours, they faced $40 million in immediate penalties, with more to follow. The final message from Samantha came at 12:47 p.m. Theo just threw up in the trash can. Landon told him to get out. Security escorting him out now. Just like they did to you. Poetic justice. Indeed it was. But I wasn't done yet. The board meeting from hell was just the appetizer. The main course was yet to come. I turned my phone back on to find 93 missed calls. The most recent voicemail was from David Hartley himself. His usually commanding voice reduced to something almost pleading. Olivia, this is David. We need to talk. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Please call me back immediately. We're prepared to discuss. Significant compensation. Misunderstanding. As if firing me to replace me with an intern was something that happened by accident. I deleted the voicemail and went back to my tea. Let them sweat through a few more shirts. Let them understand what it felt like to watch something you built slip through your fingers. They'd wanted a youthful approach. They'd gotten exactly that, the youthful confidence to delete what you don't understand, to simplify what seems complex, to assume that experience is just another word for old. Now they were learning that some things can't be undone with a simple Ctrl+Z. Saturday morning brought coffee and vindication in equal measure. I sat in my favorite cafe, the one with the worn leather chairs and the barista who knew my order by heart. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. This time, I answered. Olivia. Marianne Foster's voice was warm honey over sharp steel. My former legal advisor, the woman who'd helped negotiate my original Riseware contract, had seen the news. I've been expecting your call. I haven't called you. No. But you're about to. I've been reviewing your contract since Friday afternoon. That clause we insisted on, the one they said was paranoid and unnecessary. I smiled into my cappuccino. Article 7, Section 3. Exactly. They fought us on it. Remember said it was redundant, that their standard IP assignment covered everything, but we insisted on explicit language about formal transfer requirements. 3 years ago, Marianne had pushed for that clause despite Riseware's protests. She'd seen too many engineers get burned by companies that claimed ownership of everything they touched. The provision was simple but powerful. Any IP not formally documented and transferred through proper channels remained the creator's property if they were terminated without performance-based cause. Pull up your email, Marianne continued. Check your Riseware account from the past year. Tell me if you see any formal IP transfer documents for something called Protocol Omega. I already knew the answer, but I logged into my personal archive anyway. I'd saved every email, every document, every scrap of communication from my 9 years at Riseware. The search returned nothing. Protocol Omega had been my pet project, built during countless late nights and weekends. I'd embedded it piece by piece during routine updates, never as a standalone module requiring formal documentation. Nothing, I confirmed. Beautiful. Now, let me tell you what Riseware's legal team is discovering right about now. Not only do you own the protocol, but they've been using your property without authorization since Tuesday. Every second their system remains encrypted using your code is another second of unlawful use. What's my exposure? 0. You created a security measure to protect data integrity. It functioned exactly as designed when it detected unauthorized deletions. The fact that their own employee triggered it, that's their problem, not yours. I heard papers shuffling on her end. Here's what I recommend. We register Protocol Omega as your intellectual property immediately. I can file the paperwork today. Then we send Riseware a formal notice that they're using your property without permission. They'll panic. They should. Olivia. They're hemorrhaging money. Stock price down 12% since Friday. Clients threatening to leave. They need that encryption key. And you're the only person on Earth who has it. I thought about the external drive sitting in my home safe, containing not just backups, but the complete documentation of every system I'd built, including the private key that could unlock $82 million with a few keystrokes. There's more, I said. The protocol isn't just the encryption. It's integrated into their core architecture. Even if they could bypass it, removing it would take months of re-engineering. Marianne's laugh was sharp and delighted. You built yourself into the foundation. I built quality code. The fact that they can't function without it says more about them than me. Speaking of which, I have a friend at the USPTO who can expedite your filing. We could have provisional protection by Monday. That gives you incredible leverage. I don't want to go back. Of course not. But Olivia, you're sitting on IP that's worth millions. Riseware isn't the only company that needs advanced security protocols. You could license this technology, start your own firm, make them compete for access to what they threw away. The idea had been percolating since Tuesday, but hearing Marianne say it made it real. I wasn't just a fired engineer anymore. I was the owner of technology that had just proved its worth in the most dramatic way possible. Set up the filing, I said. And Marianne, make sure the documentation includes every module, every subroutine, every line of code I wrote outside of standard business hours. You documented your overtime coding. Every commit timestamp, every weekend session, every late night when I was the only one who cared if Riseware survived, it's all logged. Olivia Hart, you brilliant woman. They didn't just fire their lead engineer, they fired their foundation, and now the whole house is falling down. As I ended the call, my phone immediately buzzed with another, David Hartley again. This time I let it go to voicemail, but I listened to the message. Olivia, our legal team has reviewed the situation. We acknowledge that there may be some ambiguity regarding ownership of certain code modules. We're prepared to offer you a consulting contract. 7 figures. Please, we need to resolve this. 7 figures. On Tuesday. I wasn't worth my regular salary. Now I was worth 7 figures. I flagged down the barista for another cappuccino. It was going to be a long weekend for Riseware Systems. For me, I was just getting started on the paperwork that would change everything. Sunday through Wednesday became a masterclass in strategic silence. My phone logged over 300 missed calls. Emails flooded every account they could find. LinkedIn notifications peaked at 99 plus. Former colleagues, executives, even board members, everyone wanted to be the hero who brought Olivia Hart back to save Riseware. I responded to none of them. Instead, I watched. Riseware's stock price fell another 18% by Monday close. Tech blogs picked up the story. Major security firm locks itself out of own system. The articles were vague on details, but the damage was spreading. Competitors smelled blood in the water. Marianne filed the IP registration Monday morning. By Tuesday, we had provisional protection for Protocol Omega and 17 other modules I'd developed. The documentation was meticulous, every timestamp, every after-hours commit, every weekend innovation that had never been formally transferred. Wednesday brought desperation to new heights. Landon Sayer himself appeared at my apartment building at 7:15 a.m. I watched from my window as security turned him away. He tried again at lunch, then at 5:43 p.m., this time with flowers. As if this were some kind of romantic comedy where the jilted lover wins back their ex with roses. But while they chased me, I was building something new. Hardcore Systems LLC was registered in Delaware by Tuesday afternoon. The name was Marianne's suggestion, a play on my last name and the reality of what I'd built. By Wednesday, I'd secured a business bank account, set up corporate structure, and most importantly, begun drafting a licensing framework for Protocol Omega. The silence was strategic. Every day, Riseware bled. Money was another day my leverage grew. Their clients were beyond furious now. A leaked email showed that their biggest customer, Axiom Financial, was hours away from invoking the nuclear option in their contract immediate termination with full penalties. That alone would cost Riseware $30 million. I also monitored developer forums where Riseware engineers vented their frustration. They'd tried everything: brute force attacks, system restoration, even attempting to rebuild from cached data. But Protocol Omega had done its job too well. Without the key, the data might as well have been launched into space. Then Thursday arrived with an unexpected visitor. Marcus stood at my door at 8:20 a.m., looking exhausted. My former colleague, one of the few I'd actually respected, held 2 cups of coffee like a peace offering. "I'm not here for them," he said quickly. "I quit yesterday." I let him in. "It's chaos," he continued, settling into my kitchen chair. "Complete meltdown. They've got 3 teams of contractors trying to break your encryption. The FBI cyber division laughed at them when they asked for help, said it wasn't a criminal matter if you owned the code." "Why did you quit?" "Because I watched them fire the best engineer I've ever worked with to save money on salary. Then I watched them hand her life's work to an intern who thinks Stack Overflow is actual engineering. I don't want to work for people that stupid." He pulled out his phone, showing me a screenshot. "You need to see this. Internal memo from this morning." The memo was from David Hartley, to all staff. It announced the temporary suspension of Landon Sayer pending an investigation into hiring practices. It also announced a blank check budget for data recovery efforts. "They're collapsing," Marcus said. "Clients jumping ship, bored in revolt. There's a rumor that Orion Tech is circling, looking to buy the corpse." Orion Tech, Riseware's biggest competitor, The company that had tried to poach me 2 years ago with an offer I'd turned down out of loyalty. The same loyalty that got me a cardboard box and a security escort. Marcus, what would you say to being CTO of a new security firm? His coffee mug stopped halfway to his mouth. You're starting something. I own the code. Not just Protocol Omega 17 critical modules that Riseware needs to function. I can license it back to them, or I can license it to their competitors, or, I smiled, I can build something better. You have the key. I have everything. 9 years of innovations, improvements, and insights, all legally mine thanks to their own termination terms. Marcus set down his mug slowly. You know, Sarah Winters called me yesterday, their head counsel, asked if I had any way to reach you, said they're prepared to offer anything reinstatement, promotion to CTO, blank check salary. Too late. That's what I told her. You don't fire someone on Tuesday and expect them to save you on Thursday, not when that someone built your entire foundation. He paused. So, this CTO position, equity stake, ground floor opportunity, and we build it right this time. No shortcuts, no inexperienced replacements, no treating engineers like disposable parts. Marcus extended his hand. When do we start? We already have. Every second they beg for my attention is another second I'm building something they'll wish they'd kept. As we shook hands, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, the voicemail was from someone new. Richard Yamamoto, CEO of Orion Tech. Ms. Hart, I believe we have mutual interest to discuss. Riseware's loss could be the industry's gain. Please call me at your earliest convenience. The game was changing. Riseware thought their biggest problem was a locked system. They were about to learn it was just the beginning. The Orion Tech headquarters gleamed like a promise of everything Riseware should have been. Richard Yamamoto met me personally in the lobby at 10 a.m. Friday, exactly 1 week and 3 days after my termination. He didn't send an assistant. He didn't make me wait. The CEO of a $40 billion company stood there himself, hand extended. Olivia Hart, the woman who built an impregnable fortress, then locked her former employer outside it. His conference room overlooked the bay. As I settled into a chair that probably cost more than my monthly salary at Riseware, Richard slid a tablet across the table. That's our offer. Not for employment for an exclusive licensing agreement, Protocol Omega and any associated security modules you own. The number on the screen made my poker face crack. $210 million, structured over 3 years, with $50 million up front. You've done your homework, I said. We've been watching Riseware's meltdown with great interest. Our analysis team estimates they've lost $90 million in value this week alone. But what interests me more is what you built. A security protocol so sophisticated that even its creator can't break it without the key that's revolutionary. It's not just the protocol. No, it's not. Richard pulled up another screen. 17 modules, each representing years of innovation, authentication systems, data integrity checks, adaptive encryption layers. You didn't just build security features. Ms. Hart, you built an ecosystem. He was right, and he knew it. More importantly, he knew I knew it. We want exclusive rights, he continued. Full licensing for Orion Tech's use, with you retained as a consultant for implementation, 3-year commitment, with options to extend. What about Riseware? His smile was sharp as a blade. What about them? They had their chance. They chose a 22-year-old intern over the architect of their success. That's not a mistake, that's a revelation of values. The contract terms were generous beyond my wildest calculations. Not just the money, but the structure I retained ownership of the IP. Orion got exclusive commercial usage, and I'd oversee integration with their existing systems. There was even a clause preventing them from hiring anyone who'd participated in my termination from Riseware. There's one more thing, Richard said as I reviewed the terms. We want to announce this Monday. Full press release. Orion Tech acquires exclusive rights to revolutionary security protocol. Markets love that kind of news. Monday, The same day Riseware's 72-hour client deadlines would trigger maximum penalties. The timing wasn't coincidental. "You're going to destroy them." "No, Ms. Hart, they destroyed themselves. We're simply building something better from the pieces they discarded." I thought about Tuesday's humiliation, the cardboard box, the security escort, Theo's feet on my desk before I'd even left the building. Then I thought about the external drive in my safe, holding keys to kingdoms they'd never even known existed. "I'll need to bring my CTO, Marcus Rodriguez. The one who quit Riseware yesterday already approved. We did mention we've been watching closely." By noon, the contracts were signed. My lawyer Marianne had flown in that morning, reviewing every clause with the precision of someone who'd seen too many engineers get screwed by fine print. But Orion's terms were clean. They wanted my technology, and they were willing to pay for it. As we finalized signatures, my phone buzzed. Sarah Winters from Riseware's legal team. I let Richard see the caller ID. "Going to answer that. Why I don't work for them anymore?" "No," he smiled. "You don't, but they're about to work for you, in a way. Every security update, every patch, every innovation they need, they'll have to watch their biggest competitor implement it while they scramble for alternatives." The irony was delicious. Riseware had fired me to save maybe $200,000 in annual salary. The cost of that decision had just exceeded $200 million. That afternoon, as I left Orion's building with a signed contract worth more than I'd ever dreamed, I finally listened to Sarah Winters' voicemail. "Olivia, this is Sarah from Riseware Legal. We've prepared a comprehensive offer, full reinstatement, CTO position, $8 million signing bonus, and complete autonomy over the engineering department. Please, we need to resolve this. Our clients, just please call back." $8 million, on Tuesday. I wasn't worth my regular salary. Now they were offering $8 million just to talk. But I had a better offer, one that came with respect, recognition, and the sweet satisfaction of watching them realize what they'd thrown away. I deleted the voicemail and called Marcus. "Partner, how do you feel about starting Monday at Orion?" His whoop of joy was all the answer I needed. Riseware could keep their panic, their promises, and their pathetic attempts at reconciliation. I had work to do. Real work. Building something better with people who understood that you don't replace experience with enthusiasm, that you don't discard architects and expect the building to stand. The foundation I'd built was about to support a completely different tower, and Riseware. They were about to learn what happened when you demolished your own foundation for the sake of a youthful approach. Monday morning's tech news exploded like a carefully placed bomb. Orion Tech acquires exclusive rights to revolutionary security protocol for $210 million. The markets responded instantly. Orion's stock jumped 6% at opening bell. Riseware's plummeted another 22%, triggering automatic trading halts. But the real destruction was happening behind closed doors at Riseware headquarters. Marcus, now officially Hardcore Systems CTO and Orion's integration consultant, sent me screenshots from former colleagues throughout the day. The internal meltdown was complete. At 9:15 a.m., security footage leaked showing Theo Danner being escorted out, not fired. Technically, but reassigned to non-critical projects. Translation, they couldn't legally fire him yet, but they'd made him radioactive. The same footage showed him stopping at a trash can to vomit again, his Berkeley pride dissolving into bile. By 10:30 a.m., Landon Sayers' temporary suspension became permanent termination. The board's investigation had revealed he'd fast-tracked Theo's promotion without proper technical review, overriding 3 senior engineers' concerns. He'd also, it turned out, promised the board 30% cost savings by eliminating redundant senior positions. My position being the first casualty. The real avalanche started at noon. An emergency all-hands meeting was called where David Hartley himself had to explain why their largest competitor now owned the security infrastructure Riseware desperately needed. The Q&A session, according to my sources, was brutal. "Why does Orion have our code?" one engineer asked. "It was never our code," Hartley admitted. Due to oversights in the termination process, critical IP remained with its creator. So we fired the person who owned our foundation. Silence. At 2:45 p.m., 3 major clients officially terminated their contracts. Axiom Financial's departure alone triggered $40 million in penalties. The others added another $30 million, $70 million in direct losses, plus the lost revenue from their departures. But the killing blow came from an unexpected source. At 3:30 p.m., Riseware's own board of directors called an emergency session. The agenda: leaked within minutes, vote of no confidence in CEO David Hartley. The man who'd let Landon fire me, who'd signed off on replacing experience with youth, who'd sat in that Tuesday meeting and thanked me for my service while handing my life's work to an intern, he was about to face his own termination. Sarah Winters tried one last time, calling from her personal cell at 4:20 p.m. This time, I answered. "Olivia, please. The company is imploding. We need that encryption key. Name your price." "I already have." "The Orion deal. We'll match it, triple it, whatever you want." "Sarah, on Tuesday, your company decided I was worth so little that a 22-year-old could replace me. You can't suddenly discover my value just because the house is on fire. This is destroying people's careers, good people who had nothing to do with your termination." I thought about that, about Marcus and others who'd shown integrity. Any engineer who wants to apply to Hardcore Systems is welcome to send their resume. We're hiring. "You're poaching our staff." "No, Sarah. I'm offering life rafts to people on a sinking ship. A ship your leadership torpedoed when they decided experience was disposable." She was quiet for a long moment. "The board is meeting now. Hartley won't survive the vote. Neither will most of the leadership team. Is there any chance, any at all, that you'd consider helping if the entire management structure changes?" "Ask me that question 2 weeks ago. Oh wait, 2 weeks ago. I was too busy building the systems you're now locked out of. Systems I built while Landon was planning to replace me with cheaper labor." "So that's it. You're really going to let Riseware burn?" "I'm not letting anything happen. I'm building something new with people who value what I bring. Riseware made its choice. Now they get to live with the consequences." I ended the call and turned back to my computer. My new Hardcore Systems email was full of applications engineers fleeing Riseware's sinking ship. Good people who deserved better than leaders who confused cost-cutting with strategy. At 5:47 p.m., the news broke David Hartley resigned as CEO. Effective immediately, the board appointed an interim leader and announced a comprehensive restructuring. Translation: everyone involved in my termination was gone. At 6:15 p.m., I got a text from Marcus, check LinkedIn. Theo Danner had updated his profile. No longer security infrastructure lead at Riseware Systems. Now just seeking new opportunities. His Berkeley credentials couldn't save him from being the intern who caused a $100 million disaster. The golden boy who was supposed to bring a youthful approach to Riseware Systems had become the symbol of everything wrong with valuing potential over proven performance. His career in serious tech was over before it began. No company would trust critical infrastructure to someone whose name was synonymous with deleted $82 million. I poured myself a glass of wine and watched the sunset from my apartment window. Somewhere across the city, a gleaming tower that had once been Riseware Systems was full of empty offices, terminated executives, and panicking board members trying to salvage what was left. They'd wanted to save money. Instead, they'd paid the ultimate price for confusing cost with value, for thinking that 9 years of expertise could be replaced by youthful enthusiasm and a Berkeley degree. As my phone lit up with another call from another Riseware board member, I turned it off entirely. The fall of the golden intern was complete. The fall of those who'd elevated him was just beginning. 6 months later, I stood on the main stage at the San Francisco Tech Summit, looking out at an audience of 2,000 industry leaders. The massive screens behind me displayed Hardcore Systems Redefining Digital Security in bold letters. As CEO of the fastest-growing security firm in Silicon Valley, I was about to introduce technology that would reshape how companies thought about protecting their digital assets. The irony wasn't lost on me that Riseware's former headquarters were visible through the convention center windows. The building had a new tenant now. Riseware had downsized to 3 floors in a suburban office park. Their valuation slashed by 80%. Their Wikipedia page had become a cautionary tale in business schools about the cost of devaluing institutional knowledge. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice carrying clear and strong. "6 months ago, a major tech company learned what happens when you delete code you don't understand. Today, Hardcore Systems ensures that never happens to you." The presentation showcased our new suite protocol Omega had evolved into something even more sophisticated. We'd signed 43 enterprise clients, including 7 Fortune 500 companies. Our revenue projections for year 1 exceeded $50 million. Marcus had built a team of the best engineers in the valley, many of them refugees from Riseware's collapse. As I explained our technology, I spotted familiar faces in the audience. Former Riseware board members who'd reached out after the implosion, competitors studying our rise, tech journalists who'd covered the Riseware disaster as they dubbed it. Even Landon Sayer was there, sitting in the back, his golden boy confidence replaced by something harder to define. Humility, perhaps, or just defeat. "Security isn't about youth or age," I continued. "It's about understanding that every line of code tells a story. Delete a chapter you haven't read, and you might lose the entire book." The audience stirred. They knew the reference. Everyone in tech knew about the intern who deleted $82 million with a few keystrokes. At Hardcore Systems, we believe in building foundations so strong that no single person, no matter how brilliant or inexperienced, can accidentally destroy what you've built. We call it the Omega Principle protection that evolves, adapts, and most importantly, remembers. The presentation ended to thunderous applause. As I left the stage, tech reporters surrounded me with questions. One asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Ms. Hart, what do you say to those who claim you deliberately sabotaged Riseware?" I looked directly into the camera. I built a security system that worked exactly as designed. It protected valuable data from unauthorized tampering. The fact that the tampering came from within the company doesn't make it sabotage. It makes it a lesson in the importance of understanding what you're destroying before you hit delete. Do you have any regrets about how things ended? My only regret is that it took getting fired to realize my worth wasn't determined by people who saw experience as an expense rather than an investment. As the crowd dispersed, I made my way to the VIP reception. There, Richard Yamamoto raised a champagne glass. To Olivia Hart, who turned a pink slip into a $200 million empire. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawled below us. Somewhere out there, Theo Danner was probably working at a small startup, his LinkedIn forever marked by his time as the intern who crashed Riseware. The Berkeley Golden Boy had learned that confidence without competence was just arrogance with a degree. My phone buzzed with a message from our CFO, another acquisition offer, this time from a European conglomerate. $300 million for Hardcore Systems. I smiled and tucked the phone away. We weren't for sale. We were just getting started. As the sun set over San Francisco, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber, I raised my own glass, not to revenge that was already complete, not to the money, though it certainly didn't hurt, but to the simple truth that had carried me from a humiliating Tuesday termination to this moment. Interns come and go, but foundations, you can't fake those. The words hung in the air like a promise and a warning. In the tech world, where youth was worshipped and experience discarded, I'd proven that some things couldn't be replaced by enthusiasm and a fresh degree. Some things had to be built, line by line, year by year, failure by failure, until they became unshakable. And when someone tried to shake them anyway, well, they learned what $82 million disappearing in 43 seconds really meant. It meant you should have kept the architect. Thank you for listening to this story. I'm curious to know where you're enjoying this tale from. Please comment below and let me know what country or city you're listening from so we can connect. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about Olivia's journey. What would you have done in her position? I'd love to hear your perspective.